Thank you for being here with me today. I'm very excited to talk about Donna. She is a delight to have in class. She always contributes by wanting to help the other students, and I've noticed that she'll finish her work and ask, "Can I please go help other people?" Or she'll just start doing it, which is amazing. She just loves to find ways to help the other students. She always is very attentive in our lessons, and I can count on her to give really good answers when I ask questions as I'm teaching. Um, and overall, she just is a great contributor, so we're really glad to have her. I have been working with Donna over the last few weeks, especially in the areas of reading and writing, to see about where she's at and what things are going well and what things she can keep working on. And I found a lot of really good things. So I'm going to tell you about some of the assessments I did with her so you can understand what it was I was doing, and then I'll tell you what the takeaway from it is. And just starting with some of the things she did really well. The first thing we did was an interview in which I asked her questions about what she thinks of what it means to be a reader. That just like, how do you like reading, and what do you do when you don't know words? Questions like that just told me what her attitude towards reading is. And the great thing there is that she loves to read. She gave herself a 5 on how she considers a 5 out of 5 of how she considers herself as a reader, which is really great. It just means that she enjoys it. It's something she has a good attitude towards, which makes her just do a better job at it. So that was really fun to talk with her about. One of the other assessments we did was something called a sentence dictation, which just meant that I read her a sentence, and then I read it through once just so that she could hear it, and I read it through again, having her listen and write down every single word as best as she can. I didn't help her with any of the spelling. I just wanted her to sound it out as best she could. And this helped me to see her ability to combine sounds and then how we write them as letters. Looking for those relationships. And what I found is that she's very logical and knows which sounds different letters can make. This doesn't mean that her spelling always comes out in a conventional way. For example, she spelled today Toda, but that's perfect because it shows that she's recognizing that the A can say A. So even though she doesn't know all of the spelling patterns there are to know yet, which is not something I would expect her to, she shows that she's starting to grasp those sound letter relationships really well. And I was very happy to see it. So I mean, just for a gauge of that, she got 41 out of 46 possible points for all of the sounds that she needed to hear. And it was very well done, very well written. Her high frequency word task was a task in which I gave her some of the most common words we see in reading. These are usually called sight words. And I just had her look at them all laid out in front of her and identify the ones she could read. And the great thing is she read 30 of the 36 I gave her correctly very easily. And she was just able to say the, a, his. And this is super important because when she's reading, knowing these words will help her to read more quickly and not spend as much time decoding or looking at every single word on a page, but she'll be able to focus more on the words she doesn't know yet, and that overall just leads to more fluent reading, which means she'll read quickly enough and accurately enough to take away the meaning of what she's read of the words, and not be focused on just trying to think of what the words are. And she also, in more of a comprehension assessment, she would do a retelling for me. This meant that we read a story, and then I asked her to tell me about that story. I gave her prompts of what happened in the beginning, what happened in the middle, and what happened in the end. And she answered questions very accurately. She could give me good details that she remembered from the story. This included talking about characters, what they did, and just giving me the specifics from a story. So that's one of the biggest highlights of all that I found, because it means she's taking away the messages of the story and remembering what happened and making meaning of the whole super duper important. As far as some takeaways with those go, I think in the spelling, in the spelling, she will be able to continue improving as she just works on playing with words at home and seeing them more often, because that helps her to recognize the patterns and use them in her own writing. So at home, I'll be sending home like word cards in groups that have relationships. For example, words that follow patterns: chunk, bunk, hunk. And she can like play with those words to find the patterns, and all by herself. Sometimes she might choose to put them in groups of what has the same beginning letter, or groups of what has the same letters at the end. That'll really just give her a good feel for how words work. And in school, we'll be doing similar things. We'll be taking a word and practice playing with it to make a new word, so that she can see where those changes in letters come with the different sounds. And with those sight words, the ones that are important to know because she'll be seeing them a lot, I just want her to get as much exposure to reading and spelling them as possible. So some suggestions I would have is, if with like letter magnets, playing with those on the fridge to spell words like and, the, him, my, and just practice putting those together. Or with Play-Doh, she can just use like a toothpick to write the words out in the Play-Doh. These are all really fun ways that she'll feel like she's still getting to play around with manipulatives, or like objects, but that will still help her to practice those important concepts. We'll be working on those in school too, I'll be trying to help her be more aware of when she sees them when she is reading. So if I give her a text, I might have her highlight any of what she knows are her sight words, and we keep them up on a word wall so that she can refer back to them and kind of remember, oh yeah, we talked about that, we learned that word. And another, last but not least with this, the retelling and the comprehension that shows that she remembers what she read in the story. I just want, in the time that you spend reading with her, I think the best thing you can do is just ask her questions about a book. What did we just read? What happened? Why did the puppy do that? And try to use these questions before you read the book, while you read the book, and after you read the book. There's no right or wrong questions. It's whatever comes to mind. So don't worry about that being super complicated. Just get her talking about it and interacting with it rather than just listening passively. We do similar things at school, again, where after we read especially, she gets a storyboard, and that shows 3 pictures maybe from what happened in the story, and she has to put them in order of what happened first, what happened second, what happened last. And that really helps her to think back on the story and show that she's remembering the events. These will all strengthen her ability to give details and to remember sequencing. Sequencing is a super important thing, especially as we get into longer books and writing, just so that she can make sense of what's happening and when it is happening. Those are all things that Donna is just so great at, and I'm just excited to see her get better and better. And in addition to them, there's just 2 things that I think that are the focus areas of what I want her to continue working on, that she is that can be kind of like her goals for the next little while between these next parent-teacher conferences. So to explain, I have 2 more assessments to explain, and then I'll tell you what the takeaways from those are. The first is called a running record. In a running record, I listen to Donna read, and I record exactly what I hear her saying and how I hear her reading a word, how she's sounding it out, if she's going back and fixing it, if she's read it wrong, or if she's just moving on to the next word. And that gives me a very good feel of the strategy she's using when she's reading to decode or sound out the words on the page. What I'm seeing is that she came out at the frustration level in some of the books that she read. And I was impressed because we would do a retelling where I asked her about the books, and she'd still be able to tell me what happened. So I think that she sometimes will read words and maybe not look at the whole word, look at the first letter and think, oh, I know that this word starts with a V, and so instead of saying visit, she says something else that starts with a V, like vet. And it's close, but it's not the exact word. So she's still using pictures to infer meaning and get a good message out of the book, but we want to work on her knowing exactly what the words say. And some helps with this are going to be, honestly, just to be reading every day at home, especially. The more exposure she gets to books, the better she will be at this. And in school, I'll be teaching her some very specific strategies she can use when she sees a word to sound it out all the way. That will be like looking through the word and seeing all the letters and then making sure you get the sounds for them all and putting them together, or using other words that she already knows to help with new words that look similar. If she knows the word all, that will help her to read the word ball, for example. And so I expect her, as we do those things, to quickly move from not feeling like we're missing a lot of the words or guessing on a lot of the words, but that we're getting the majority of them correct when she reads. Last but not least, I just did a little analysis of some of the writing she's done in class. So I took about 3 of the assignments that she did in writing details or informational texts where she just was giving me lots of details and saw how she was putting all of her skills together. And it was really great. She is really good at just writing those complete sentences. She's able to convey her meaning through words. She's not needing to add pictures, or she can come up with the words she wants to say. And she stays right on the topic and gives lots of details. She's just like, she was writing about her Halloween costume, and it's going to be black, and it's going to have a tail because it's a cat. The thing I want to work on next, and this is common for most of the class because it's not something we've quite covered as much as I would like in class, is just concluding with a closing sentence, a sense of closure to what she's saying. So I'm going to help her see how there's kind of an order to what she writes, and in class using like a graphic organizer to say, okay, here's where I say, this is what I'm talking about, here are all the details, and now this is the closing sentence. This is like a recap of it all. And so I want her at home just to simply take that home, share it with you, and if you can tell her, oh, I love that you did this, or what you see, ask questions if something doesn't make sense. That'll really help her to understand that she has an audience who needs to understand, and that not everything in her head goes onto the paper, but it needs to, so that someone who's reading what she writes can understand it. And that is where that organization is so important, and she'll start to see that the more she talks about her writing. So those are our takeaways for Donna in this quarter, and I'm just again so impressed with the progress she's made, with the effort she puts forth in class. She's just one of the funnest students who always is excited to be in the classroom, and I love it so much. I'm really excited to keep working with her and for the things you guys are going to get to do at home, and I'll make sure you get a list of all those ideas I talked about, since there's quite a few. And again, keep them simple, keep them fun, but the more chances she gets to work with it, the more progress we're going to see, and I'm really excited to see where she goes in the next few months. So